So today I got to pull this car out actually. I have to do a Ford Taurus SHO. I have wheel bearing, tune-up, air, cabin filters, and so on and so forth. A bunch of little stuff on it. So I'm going to do that car today and get this thing out of here. I'm just going to kind of pre-assemble the electrical just enough so it can run at least. I hate having to pull cars out with my other car. It's hard to get over the lump on the center of the hoist. Pulling them in is no problem. Pulling them out is a little tougher. So I'm going to do that today. And then, yeah, we'll get back on the video. Should be a good day today. Should be somewhat shorter, easier to follow video, not so drawn out and long. So the first step to this project, I got to get the hoist is on. I had to do that. But I pulled this cap and I'm going to put brake fluid on top of it. Just making sure there, .3. So I buy this stuff. It's cheap but works. 3 and 4, so it's basically a .4. I mean, if it covers .3 and .4, it's .4. .4 covers 3 as well. So this is basically a .4 fluid, but they label it differently, and I think that reduces the price. I'm not sure. Either way, I have a little trick that I do with these. Now this bottle is right there, so it's not completely full, which is okay with me. If I was doing just a brake bleed on a small portion, like replacing a caliper or something, I'll take and use a little bottle. But I'm doing a full system bleed, and this thing has an ABS control module, the whole works. So I'm going to put this bottle, which is a little over half full, on there. And what I do is I flip this thing upside down on top of here. By doing so, it automatically fills this, and I don't have to worry until this bottle is out that this is going to get too low and have an air pocket end up in it. I did spill just a little bit, just when I did the flip. But once it's on there, it won't leak a drop because it creates its own seal vacuum kind of scenario. It works out really, really well if you don't know about it. These little bleeder caps that sit on the calipers, don't lose those. They're very important, especially in states with corrosive properties like Minnesota, where we have the salted winter streets. These bleeders, if you leave them off, that's when the bleeders will seize up and get stuck on the caliper, and you'll fight for a while. Keeping them on there keeps all the moisture out of it and keeps all the problems in the future from happening. It's weird. You would think that the rust would still get in from the threads on the outside. Somehow having this cap on there makes a huge difference. Okay, I got the bleeder open. So what I'm doing here is I'm just letting it gravity bleed. It'll take the new stuff, put it in the reservoir, and sit here and drip. And while it drips, it's cleaning out the system and actually flushing it out. It does a pretty darn good job. So as long as I get all the bleeders opened up, I'll get all the calipers with nice clean fluid. Okay, so you can see I have the antifreeze draining now. That's what that running sound is in the background. The brake fluid is almost empty. That bottle that I put up there is almost empty, so I'm going to go ahead and start running around closing all the bleeders up. So I am closing all the bleeders now. Just go ahead and shut all these bleeders. That pretty much finalizes that. I'm going to move on to the wheel bearing now. Go ahead and swap that out. The coolant has drained for the most part, but the coolant is not going to be fully drained. So I got to blast a little puff of air in there and then get what I can out of it. I'll probably do that right before the wheel bearing. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to pick up the sound of the dribbling right now over the AC unit, but there's a dribbling from the antifreeze. I just blasted a little air in the reservoir, and sure enough, it started running out again. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm doing. You can see the cap right here. The reservoir is right here. There's a hole and a tank right there. So all I'm doing is I got the cap off, which I had off before in order to drain it. But I'm taking this deal and putting my hand over it like this, right? And then I'm putting my hand on top of that deal. And then I'm making sure that I don't over pressurize the system. The last thing I want to do is blow up a hose or something, you know. See, I just kind of do that, but I just control it with my hand on here. There, it's pretty much done. So now I got the system empty as much as I can. The bottom of the block, however, the bottom of the block will not be empty. Excuse me. Is the wheel bearing as far as ABS goes. Now this car is equipped with ABS. So, see this wire going down there? It goes to a sensor that's actually mounted on this housing. I want to make sure that whatever it is I'm doing, it's not going to break that sensor off when I pull this wheel bearing out. So what I did is I looked at where that sensor comes from, whether it's a trigger on the drive shaft or the CV axle, or if it's a trigger on the wheel bearing. And this little brown ring or whatever here, whatever color you see it is, it's got like little magnets in it. So this is where the ABS is picked up. Now since it bolts in this way, the sensor comes over and sits over top of it like that. So it doesn't interfere with anything. If I pull this off, I'm not going to break it. Here's the old wheel bearing. It feels good. It doesn't mean it is good. It has to have weight on it sometimes for it to feel crummy. Now you noticed I used a chisel on there. Normally that would be a bad move if this is like it is, where this is aluminum and that is steel. What will happen is you'll make a huge gouge in here. And then you have to fart around with trying to make it even with a file or whatever. But the chisel I use, I sharpen my chisels differently. So most people, you know, a standard chisel is just a V point. I don't put a V point in it. I put a flat, so it's flat on one side, and then it's ground to match the flat on the other side. So what I do is I take the flat and I put it against there, creates a wedge. It keeps the flat section against the aluminum, and then pushes the steel out and damages only the steel and keeps the aluminum intact. There is not a bad mark on here from the chisel I did. I mean, it's now I have to go and clean all this up with my little whiz wheel and make sure it's in good shape. Okay, so you can see how much easier that is than sitting there doing a brush. The brush thing is a pain in the butt. This particular car has a very interesting torque thing for it. I'm going to have to put these in first, but then I'll show you what that torque is. Alright, so the next step is using the old nut to pre-torque it. So the instructions for torquing this thing are a little bit unique. Normally you just put the new nut on there, you zip it in, you torque it, right? Well, on this bearing, for some reason, it gives you a little, I think it's like FDR or something when you look it up, and then you have to go down to the bottom of the pages and look up what the thing is. It's got like a whole paragraph of how to do it. But what you do is it's 258 foot-pounds, so I gotta zip this on, and then I gotta tighten it to 258 foot-pounds, and then I have to take this off, put the new nut on, and put it at 258 foot-pounds. Looks like that wraps up the wheel side of things. So that's the wheel bearing. That's completed. Now I have to put all the tires back on. I have my coolant vacuum thing on here. I'm going to suck a vacuum down on the coolant system and then pull the antifreeze through the hose into the system. Now I get to move on to the tune-up part of this car. Obviously I've already removed the top cover here. Okay, so we're just going to take care of the spark plugs right now. Got to pull the main cover, this guy off, it's in your way. There's some harnesses and stuff in the way over there. But first we're going to work on this side because that's the easy side for you to see. Here's the first 3 spark plugs I'm replacing. They're right in the front. Do the other ones in a minute. Somebody has some Autolite XP in here. Okay, so the factory plug is a Motorcraft SP534. Looks like an iridium plug. Now, they're pretty much the same darn thing. However, I don't know how well these Autolites perform. This car was running a little rough when it came in, but they are really worn out too. So I know Ford has had problems with the plugs in the F-150s with the EcoBoost motors, where they crack the porcelain. The first couple of generations, they're having a lot of trouble with cracking the porcelain. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say no Autolites because Autolite has been good for Ford in the past, but I would definitely avoid any other brand, whether it be NGK or Champion, especially Champion. Gross. I've seen spark plugs come loose quite a few times. And it seems to me, as far as I'm concerned, that'd probably be the ones that are torqued at less than 18 or 16 foot-pounds. Another thing I got to change out quick is the air filter. Once I do that, I'm actually going to take and probably clean this engine bay up outside a little bit. So my next step here is to do the cabin air filter. I'm pretty sure I have to access it from the inside. I haven't looked it up. It's probably behind the glove box. If it's not, I'll have to reevaluate and find out where the hell it is even. So the cabin air filter is in here. It's kind of hiding. I'm going to actually grab you guys and show you. Let's do this right in front of you here. I'm going to try and get the light in a better spot though. Okay, so I grabbed my little handy hook here. See if I can get it off of the thing. There's that one. Now we gotta do this one. So there's that. That guy is off of there. And be very careful, pull slow. A lot of times leaves will end up on here. I'll go ahead and spread this out for you. Spread this guy out. You can see how big those filters really are. I mean, there's a lot of paper there. But here's what gets caught in your cabin air filter on a normal situation, normal driving, whatever. Now here's the new filter. Obviously it's a lot cleaner than the other one. Let's But at least I have completed this job. I am gonna go just wash the engine form out of courtesy type of a thing. So I'm gonna finish this up, be done on this one for the day. This will be the end of this video. You know, like, share, subscribe. I don't know where I'm gonna put them in the thing, but they'll be in here. And then of course any follow-up video, I'll probably just link some random video to it.